Welcome to write a research proposal with Clio in 12 weeks. It's actually very doable. It's doable to write a research proposal in 12 weeks. In 3 weeks, you can write a research proposal that can go in and pass as long as you know what to do. But I'm taking note that most of the researchers in this who are partaking in the writing of the research proposal, some of them are still new, some of them are still beginners. So writing a research proposal with Clio, I'm gonna this week one, first week we'll be talking about the introduction. It's very important for you to take note that the main reason why I'm gonna be presenting a video in one every week on a different aspect that we'll be writing is to try and make sure that you get it right the first time. The first time you submit your proposal to your supervisor, we want your supervisor to say, wow, this is a good work that has been done in the first attempt. So that is the main goal. And I expect every student to take part in this process. It's not a difficult thing to do. If you have passed your honors degree, then this should be easy. It's just as good as your honors degree. You are writing your own assignment, so it's just be another assignment that we are asking you to write. So just to follow the steps that I'm going to be introducing to this study, and you will find that it's going to be actually very easy. So the introduction to a proposal is where you introduce your topic, you introduce your research questions, you introduce your research problems. This is also the place where you introduce or you map or you give us an overview of your paper's structure from point A to point B, point B to point C, as you discuss like that. So I've got 5 steps that I'm going to introduce or I'm going to tell you or I'm going to show you as tricks whenever you are writing a research proposal introduction. Okay. The first part in the introduction is before I go, you need to take note that these five steps that I'm introducing, they are only making one paragraph. I do not want to see, or it's not proper to see, an introduction with the five paragraph. Then it won't be an introduction anymore. An introduction is mainly one paragraph. So these 5 parts or these 5 steps that I'm going to introduce, I expect you to come out with one paragraph. So the first step, you introduce your topic. When you introduce your topic, that is the first job to tell your readers about what you intend to research and why is it interesting you. And I want you to take note, if you introduce the topic, if you want to introduce the topic, you don't necessarily need to introduce the aim at that point. But at some point, you need to make sure that you introduce the aim, or you introduce the objective, or you introduce the goal. So if you have introduced your topic in step number 1, and you did not introduce the objective of the study, in step number 4, you need to take note of step number 4, whereby you must now introduce your objectives. And whenever you are introducing your topic, it is generally accomplished with a strong opening hook. And a strong opening hook is a striking sentence that clearly conveys the relevance of your topic. The relevance of your topic is very important. I have often seen most people with the topics that you ask yourself, is this topic still relevant in 1924, in 2024? Is it still relevant? You always need to ask yourself this type of questions. Things like apartheid. Yes, it happened in South Africa, and most people, they are still crying. They still have got some issues with it. But whenever you are coming with a topic, you need to ask yourself, is it still relevant for you to go on research, spend more money in that. So it's some of the things that you need to consider whenever you are doing that. And also in the process of making of making a strong opening hook, you have got so many things that you can think of. The first one being statistics. There are so many statistics that are out there that you can actually use. Strong facts or interesting facts that are scholarly proven or scientifically proven. Strong statements that are made by scholars, questions that has been raised by different academics. You can use all those in the process of you coming up or designing a strong opening hook or a strong opening sentence. It's very important for you to make sure that your study attracts the interest of the reviewer. Always remember that the first impression, make the first impression. Always the first impression. Step number 2 is describing the background. I often encourage a student to look for 3 articles that has been researched within your area or your region where you are carrying out your study. If you are carrying your study in America, for example, I know there are so many people in America who are also watching. So if you are carrying a study in America, for example, you need to make sure that you look for 3 studies within the American context. If you are carrying it in South Africa, if you are carrying it in Ghana, for example, in Namibia, look for the studies that has been carried out in Namibia. 3 studies. South Africa, for example, you need to make sure that you look for those 3 studies where you are carrying out your study. And whenever you are giving, whenever you are describing the background, it is a kind of a mini literature review that you are giving. So it's very important that your work, what we are trying to do, we are trying to position our work within the existing literature. That's what we are only trying to do here by encouraging you to go look for at least 3 studies that has been carried out by other studies, other scholars. And this is an example. I think this is one of the best examples that I have found out there by Caulfield 2022. And this is how it reads. Various empirical studies has been conducted on Facebook usage among adolescent girls. And look how he cited. He have cited 4 scholars or 2 articles that he has been published, 2013 and 2014. It's also important for you to take note that you can't cite a very old scholar here. You can't go and cite the 1990s, 19-something scholars. We want the most recent scholars that has been carried away. And these studies have constantly found that he is reporting what these studies have found. He's summarizing what the findings of these 2 articles or 2 publications. Then the next thing that is doing is now telling us, is now positioning or is now identifying the gap by, despite this highly visual social media such as Instagram have yet to be robustly researched, he is now identifying a gap. So whenever you hear your supervisor saying you did not identify a gap in your study, that's what your supervisor is trying to show you, that you did not identify the gap. So you need to bring some scholars, you need to bring in something that has been done, and you need to tell us how you are going to close that gap. Then step number 3, you need to establish your research And whenever you are establishing your research problem is deeply rooted. It is it is a it is uh, intertwined uh, with the literature review. There is no way you're gonna come out with a good research problem without relating it to the literature review. So those three articles that I have asked you to bring about, the intention is for you to make sure that you position your research problem within the literature review. So it's very important that whenever you decide to write an introduction for your research proposal, you need to make sure that you bring those three articles. And whenever you are creating this research problem, you have got three or even more questions that can guide you. The first one being, what research gap is your work intended to fulfill? What research gap is your work intended to fill? What gap? You need to ask yourself that question, and you can only find that by literature review, by reading, right? Second question being, what limitations in previous research or previous work does it address? As scholars do their studies, write their papers, they identify some limitations, they identify some gaps. And this is what you are always asking yourself. What limitation in previous work does my study intend to address? And the last question, which I think is one of the most important question for you to ask yourself. What contribution to knowledge does my study makes? What contribution to the existing body of knowledge does my study makes? I think most students, they know this part, and they've done it very, 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 very well. When you're writing a research problem, you can connect, it is important for you to connect your research problem with the existing literature. You can connect your problem and the existing literature using phrases like the following. Although COVID-19, that is X, although in the first second box in our table, although COVID-19 has been studied in detail, I have just replaced the X with COVID-19 to give an example. Insufficient attention has been paid to the effect of COVID-19 to women or to a female-headed household, for example. Whenever you phrase your research problem in this way, you are addressing previously overlooked aspect of your topic. In most areas, in most fields, in most topics, there is always an area that is always overlooked. And as a PhD students, that's where you come in now. You need an eye which picks those issues. You need an eye which picks those, aspect that has been overlooked, jumped, because in those aspects, that's where we contribute, or we find our studies contributing more to the study. The implication of X, which is COVID-19 study, deserve to be explored further. And once you write or your research problem like that, you are building on something suggested by a previous study, and you intend to explore it in depth. For example, most scholars would have studied COVID-19 in its impact in terms of the health sector, in terms of the economy of the country, in terms of GDP of the country, but they could have overlooked the female-headed household. So, and by doing that, you are now building on that. So you intend to explore it in much depth now from that angle. So it's very important that you need to take note of how you phrase your research problem. The second way to phrase it, it is generally assumed that COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. That's an assumption. However, this paper suggests that COVID-19 had an impact, serious impact on female-headed household. So when you do this, I'm just giving it, it's not a very good example that I'm giving, but as you write, you're gonna see, you are going to, as you try to incorporate all this, you're actually going to see good examples and as you apply it in your study. So you will depart from the consensus on your topic and establish, you are trying to establish your own position. That most people, they say that, but no, for me, I'm saying that you are positioning yourself. So, and you can actually see that in order for you to be able to fulfill this requirement, you need to have a few scholars that you would have gone through for you to be able to do that. Then number 4 is to specify your objective. And take note of step number 1. If you introduce your topic, then don't forget to introduce your objective. And in most cases, we introduce this topic in form of a question. So once you start it with the topic, make sure that step number 4, you introduce the objective. And the best way to do that, do it in a form of a research question. And if you have introduced your objective or aim in step number 1, as long as in most cases not a question, as I have shown you, because I want you to open up with an opening, a strong opening hook, a statement that lures that makes your reader want to read more. So it's very important for you that in this step you make sure that you research your research objectives in the form of a research question. And whenever you are introducing objective in terms of a question, they are normally framed either as directly or indirectly. So it's very important for you to take note of that. So whenever we frame our objective or questions directly, this is how it goes. The study set out to answer the following question: what effects does daily use of Instagram? And you see, I'm now posing the actual question with a question mark at the end. So this is how you have to phrase it, with the 2 colonies, the colony after question and the question mark. I have just written Caulfield. I'm just showing you where I got the example. And indirectly, whenever you phrase it indirectly, you don't put a question mark, you always put a full stop. Like the second example, we investigated the effects, or we intend, or the study intends, or the study intends to investigate the effects of Instagram use to the prevalence of body image issues among adolescents and girls, and you put your full stop. In quantitative, I know most departments, they are no longer making it an issue whenever you are doing quantitative. In the previous years, it used to be something that whenever you are doing quantitative, they wanted a hypothesis. But these days, you can start without a hypothesis. But if your department wants you to put in a hypothesis, make sure that you state your hypothesis immediately after stating your research questions. Then the last part being to map up your study. That's the final, giving an overview for the rest of your study. And that is one example that I have also given you. You are telling us from introduction, what are you discussing next until you reach your conclusion. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next video. Thanks. Don't forget also to subscribe and to share with friends.